Mars. A cold, unforgiving red desert. The Romans called it the god of war. Because it has a thin, almost airless atmosphere, and because of the iron oxide chemicals in its soil, giving it its reddish hue, the fourth rock from the Sun has often been called red and dead. But could future generations someday call this red wasteland home? The colonisation of Mars is not a new idea, but it has been popularised in recent years by famous scientists and thinkers. Among them is Elon Musk, who hopes that we will someday become a multi-planetary species. Before we dare to dream about such an astonishing world, we will have to face many hard challenges that come along with space travel, and perhaps the most daunting task to overcome is going to be the difference between Earth and Mars.
I think there are really two fundamental paths. History is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. Eventually, history suggests there will be some doomsday event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species. So how do we figure out how to take you to Mars and create a self-sustaining city, a city that is not merely an outpost but could become a planet in its own right, and for us, thus we could become a truly multi-planet species. But sometimes people wonder, well, what about other places in the solar system? Why Mars? Well, just to sort of put things into perspective, this is an actual scale of what the solar system looks like. We're currently in the third little rock from the left. That's Earth. And our goal is to go to the fourth rock on the left. That's Mars. But you can get a sense for the real scale of the solar system, how big the Sun is, Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, and then the little guys on the right are Pluto and friends. So our options for becoming a multi-planet species within our solar system are limited. In terms of nearby options, we've got Venus, but Venus is a high-pressure, hot acid bath. So that would be a tricky one. So it's really difficult to make things work on Venus. Mercury is also way too close to the Sun. You could go potentially on one of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, but those are quite far out, much further from the Sun, a lot harder to get to. It really leaves us with one option if we want to become a multi-planet civilization, and that's Mars.
The surface gravity of Mars is only 38% that of Earth. The Mars Gravity Biosatellite, a project initiated as a competition between universities in 2001 by the Mars Society, aimed to build a spacecraft concept to study the effects of Mars-level gravity on mammals. However, the project was cancelled due to lack of funding. Although microgravity is known to cause health problems such as muscle loss and bone demineralization, it remains unknown if Martian gravity would have a similar effect. As if Mars gravity was not a major challenge in and of itself, due to the lack of magnetosphere, solar particle events, which are particles, mostly protons, emitted by the Sun and accelerated during a flare or in interplanetary space by coronal mass ejection shocks, and cosmic rays can easily reach the Martian surface, giving any Martian inhabitants a radiation dose 700 times higher than on our planet. Atmospheric pressure on Mars is far below the Armstrong limit, at which people can survive without pressure suits. The Armstrong limit is a measure of altitude above which atmospheric pressure is sufficiently low that water boils at the normal temperature of the human body. Since terraforming Mars cannot be expected as a near-term solution, habitable structures on Mars, like domes, would need to be constructed with pressure vessels similar to spacecraft, capable of containing a pressure between 30 and 100 kilopascals. The atmosphere is also toxic, as most of it consists of carbon dioxide. Because of the thin atmosphere, the temperature difference between day and night is much larger than on Earth, about 70 degrees centigrade in difference. In winter, near the poles, temperatures can get down to minus 125 degrees Celsius, while a summer day on Mars may get up to 20 degrees Celsius. The thin atmosphere does not filter out ultraviolet sunlight either, which causes instability in the molecular bonds between atoms. But despite these challenges, Elon Musk is determined on the quest for us to become a multiplanetary species, and perhaps Mars will have a population of 1 million people by 2050 if all goes according to plan.
The reusability doesn't apply quite as much to Mars because the number of times that you can reuse the spaceship is that the spaceship part of the system is less often because the Earth-Mars rendezvous only occurs every 26 months. So you get to use the spaceship part roughly every 2 years. Now you get to use the booster and the tanker as frequently as you'd like, and that's why it really makes a lot of sense to load the spaceship into orbit with essentially tanks dry and have it have really quite big tanks that you then use the booster and tanker to refill while it's in orbit and maximize the payload of the spaceship so that when it goes to Mars, you really have a very large payload capability.
The SpaceX Starship system is a fully reusable, two-stage-to-orbit, super heavy lift launch vehicle under development by SpaceX. The system is composed of a booster stage, named Super Heavy, and a second stage, also referred to as Starship. The second stage is being designed as a long-duration cargo, and eventually passenger-carrying spacecraft. The spacecraft will serve as both the second stage and the in-space long-duration orbital spaceship. The booster stage is planned to launch the upper stage and payload, such as the Starship spacecraft, to low Earth orbit. The upper stage will then propel cargo, and potentially humans, to destinations in the solar system. The Starship vehicle design has been criticised for not adequately protecting astronauts from ionizing radiation on Mars missions. Musk has stated that he thinks the transit time to Mars will be too brief to lead to an increased risk of cancer, saying it's not too big of a deal. The lifetime cancer risk increase caused by the dose incurred on a multi-year Mars mission has been estimated to amount to a 5% increase in total cancer risk, a number which can be greatly reduced through simple shielding measures. In 2017, SpaceX mentioned the theoretical possibility of using Starship to carry passengers on suborbital flights between 2 points on Earth. Any 2 points on Earth could be connected in under 1 hour, providing commercial long-haul transport competing with long-range aircraft. SpaceX, however, announced no concrete plans to pursue the two-stage Earth-to-Earth use case. In 2019, Elon Musk talked about the idea of using single-stage Starship to travel up to 10,000 kilometers on Earth-to-Earth flights at speeds approaching 25,000 kilometers an hour. He estimated that Earth-to-Earth test flights could begin probably in 2022 or 2023, and that planning was underway for floating super heavy class spaceports for Mars, Moon, and hypersonic travel around Earth. He foresees a future where millions of people would move to the Mars system and establish a self-sustaining civilization, terraforming the planet into an Earth-like world with a sustainable atmosphere and ecosystem. The first step for such a plan is to build a self-sustaining civilization on the Mars surface, in which turn will require hundreds of thousands of people to move there. The sheer number of people coming and going from Mars to Earth would make the first step of establishing transport infrastructure between the two planets. It is fascinating that we're living in a time where these possibilities are no longer just in the realm of science fiction and are serious talk in the scientific community. Perhaps by the end of the decade we will go to Mars and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. In terms of space travel and exploring our solar system, specifically going to Mars, the 2020s may very well be like the 1960s of the Moon era. It's an exciting time to be alive. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? Then show your support by subscribing